And welcome back. We're here with Jennifer Ditchburn from the Ottawa Bureau of Canadian Press, pollster David Hurley, Susan Delacourt from the Toronto Star's political team in Ottawa, and rounding out the Fab Four, communications guru Jamie Watt. Michael Ignatieff's bus tour all over the place. Nobody's been honored, apparently, well, more than Michael Ignatieff.
I've got the collector trading card set, yeah.
What's been achieved here?
I think it's more about election rehearsal. We were talking about this before the show came on. They would love to have people like me in the media aboard there, but frankly, I think that's secondary. You realize when you're on the bus that it's getting Michael Ignatieff used to the pace, 5 events a day. It's also getting Liberals who are obsessed, as David well knows, with the air war. There's the air war and the ground war in politics, and the air war is all fought in TV and with spin,
right.
And Liberals love that part. Liberals haven't been so good at turning out on the ground, doing the events, showing up with signs and balloons, and this is basically retraining the Liberal Party to get out there and do the ground game that the Conservatives do so well.
And there's also a lot at stake for him, right?
For sure there is, yeah.
I mean, he can't have, obviously, he couldn't have sustained a series of days like the first one with the broken down bus. But
Jennifer was on the bus that day, too.
What do you make of it, Jennifer? How is it going? What's the perception?
I don't see a downside to the tour because, as you said, Susan, there's a practice element to it. All the candidates get out in each riding, so they get a little practice, and all the rank and file come out. And also, you see him with people, and he's carrying the kids, and he is personable. When you see him up close, you realize that he's not completely stiff. He's certainly a lot more relaxed than Stephen Harper is. So maybe he'll be able to put forward a persona that's more likable. But whether people think he's that good of a leader, that's another issue. And I think what he's going to have to follow it up with is when he gets back to Ottawa, some really strong policy and be a little bit stronger in the House than he has been over the last year.
All right, you two guys are the kind of pros at all this. Is this working from what you're seeing, what he's doing?
Well, I mean, first of all, what else was he going to do? He rented out his place in France, so he might as well go on a bus and go and meet some Canadians. No, I actually think it's part practice, but it's also friend raising. And these things are rites of passage for all opposition leaders when they're at that time in their life when people aren't taking them seriously, when they try and do things that don't go so well, they go out of the glare, a little bit of media coverage, but basically they take the time to go across the country, practice a bit, but also make friends. It's a big deal to the rank and file of the party. The leader comes by their town, their constituency, whatever. It revs up the troops, and then when the time comes and the gun goes off, he's got some friends in the bank, as well as just money in the bank, to help him go through his campaign. I think it's a great way for him to spend a summer.
Jeez, I'm suspicious of you saying that. What do you?
Yeah, so am I. So am I. And I think that's because he's only half right. I think that I think that a lot of the things, starting with Susan, I agree with. I think this is good training for him for an election campaign. It gives him a good sense of the pace. And I think that this has been really good for the morale of Liberals on the ground. There's finally some good news stories that are appearing in the paper, and the party appears to be taking an initiative that works. So that's all good, and there's no reason why he shouldn't have done that. But the biggest problem that the Liberal Party has is and Mr. Ignatieff has, is a complete absence of any definition, any sense of policy differentiation between itself and the Harper government. That's what they need to get those hundreds of thousands of people who are parking their votes with the Greens and the NDP back into the Liberal column, is to show them what will be different about a Liberal government from Harper. And this tour's not doing anything to show that. Mr. Ignatieff will not win a personality-based campaign. He needs an issue-based campaign.
But isn't that take you back to the old argument about when do you show those differences? You don't want to show them too early. You want to show them in a campaign, don't you?
Well, I actually think that the differences that the Liberal Party needs to be showing are on issues that the Conservatives would never match them on. I think the Liberal Party's problems are not the Conservative Party, which is at 31, 33% historic lows for that party, frankly. The Liberal Party's problem is that the 70% anti-government votes divided among 4 parties. They need to coalesce it. They need to show those swing voters in the NDP camp, those protest voters in the Green camp, that there's a reason to vote Liberal to defeat the Harper government, that they'll get something important that they want, a change that matters to them. And until the Liberal Party starts putting those ideas on the table, I think it's going to be stuck in the 23 to 25% range it's been in.
Is he showing anything out there?
Yeah. First of all, I think I've thought very interesting how much the media, and I say this with all respect to my colleagues, pick up conservative talking points and then ask the Liberals to bounce off them. He's not personable. He's just been from away. And I've never seen this in all my time in Ottawa. You know, that the media presents, this is what is the perception about you, not the Conservatives' perception, and then you answer it. So I think to get him out of that is a good idea. I think we have to remember, too, that Mr. Ignatieff, we were just talking about all the issues around here, hasn't had to find a bunch of issues to define himself on because the Conservatives keep tossing him balls. The abortion issue, you'll remember, the Liberals did dream that up. That was their play. They decided to take a risk that way earlier this summer to distinguish themselves between the census issue. They're talking a lot about that out there, too. So I think probably the best thing for him is being outside of Ottawa and outside of a place where it does seem that the media presents conservative talking points to him every day and asks him to respond to them.
All right. Well, it turns out to be right. 10,000 hours to do anything well, right?
Yeah. Last point. You know, I had a Conservative tell me yesterday, and this is somebody who's always said this is going to be a couple of years before there's an election. It's got to be won this fall. He started pushing for one this fall. Is it going to be one this fall?
I think you can make a credible case for there being one this fall. Campaigns matter, and the performance of parties matter in their campaign. History would tell us that Stephen Harper and his team will do better in a campaign environment than Michael Ignatieff and his team for the reasons we just discussed. We've got economic uncertainty on the horizon. We've got an opposition. The government's got an opposition in disarray, even if they're not exactly where they want to be normally for calling an election. So if you were going to use another prime minister's term, roll the dice, it sure looks to me like you might look at this fall and say, it's a pretty attractive proposition.
And roll the dice was said to you. I'm out of time, so we've got to do this quickly. You think there'll be one this fall?
I don't. I don't believe the Conservatives at 31% want to go into an election campaign. I think another minority for Harper raises all sorts of questions about his future. I think he's got to get them in better shape and rebuild before he goes, and I think that's budget time next spring.
Besides, your guys aren't ready?
Well, I'm sure that they'll be doing whatever they can to forestall an election.
No election.
No.
Conservative numbers are too low, and very low in Quebec, which makes a difference.
You get the last word.
I say no election because I don't want one, but but there may well be for the reasons Jamie said. And the Liberals that I've talked to on the road, the candidates and MPs certainly are planning for that.
All right, got to leave it at all that. And that's too bad because I was just going to give my forecast on whether there would be or not, but we're out of time for that. Time to wrap it up. Thanks to all of you. Have a great rest of the summer.